All right. It is Wednesday. We are live. We are doing our leadership training. I acknowledge all of you guys for being here. I acknowledge everybody that is new to this training. I hope you get some nuggets of information. I hope you have your pens ready. I know I got my digital notepad because tonight we have a special guest that is going to drop some nuggets of information, and I know you're going to want to take notes, just like we had Margene Holden talking about your sacred gifts on Sunday. That replay will eventually be in our YouTube channel, so you can go back and watch that. And tonight we got none other than Jay Shoop. And if you don't know Jay Shoop, wow, you're missing one of the coolest dudes I know, all right? And Jay Shoop, all right, is known as the keynote cowboy. And I actually have his little all right, so Jay, if you're on, you can turn your video on so everybody can see who you are. And he is known as the keynote cowboy, all right? And he actually got that because he liked to wear you used to wear your Western clothing, right, Jay?
I still do. I wear it all the time.
Okay. And
I know my way around a horse too.
Oh, see, a country boy like me, I'm from Colorado, so I grew up on horses and rounded up cattle. So, as country boys got to stick together,
Right.
We know how to get down and dirty, but we know how to really get to business and stuff like that. And so, Jay is a keynote cowboy, and it's because he knows how to take people's talks. People get up on stage and they do a talk, like a TED talk or something, and he knows how to refine them into really good talks and have them some amazing speeches. And he's worked with great speakers, teachers, and trainers like Les Brown. He's done teaching, coaching. He's actually just finishing his book.
It's done. It's done.
It's done. That's done. It's done. I'm sorry.
Here.
It's right there. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Just finished a book, and if you know how hard or how easy it is to do a book, you'll acknowledge him for getting this book done. All right. I have a book. I should have grabbed my book too, initiative, but I co-authored with that. I know there's a difference between a co-author and doing the whole book yourself. But Jay is not only an amazing speaker, trainer, coach, worked with some of the top-notch speakers out there like Les Brown and Greg Reed and all these other guys, but he's an amazing dad. And, Jay and I have been around each other. I mean, it's been several years, hasn't it?
About 7, almost 8.
Yeah. See, we were just talking about this today, about your circles and how our circles are not always the same as everybody else's. And that's why we're doing this. We're sharing this so that other people can learn nuggets of information and really grow, to be a leader, to step up as a leader, because there are a lot of people out there that they see the leader and I want to be like that, but they don't know the path to take or what it takes to be a leader. So Jay, I'm going to let you talk a little bit because I know I talk a lot.
Sure. You're all right.
All right.
Well, to give you a little bit of context, right? So as you mentioned, working with Les Brown for over 3 years. For anybody that's in the personal development industry, you most likely know who Les Brown is. Other mentors that I've worked with, Bob Proctor, as you mentioned, Steve Stealth Miller, right? Had the luxury, Greg Reed, of course. So just not to name drop, but to give you some context of being a student of the game. And I think when it comes to leadership, that's really one of the keys. Leaders are, you hear the quote, right, that says leaders are readers. And I think leaders are never-ending students, right? My mentor, Jim Rohn, said, be a student, not a follower. When you're having conversations like these and you're talking about personal development concepts and the philosophies. The philosophy is one thing, putting it into action is another thing. And I think that's where a leader separates themselves, is they lead by an example. They lead by the doing part of it, not just the conversation or the philosophy of it. One of the things that this moniker of the keynote cowboy came about when I would work with either entrepreneurs or professional speakers or aspiring speakers that had a story or they had a talk, but they weren't getting the results that they wanted with it. And my mentor, Les Brown, said the best speakers make the fewest words go the farthest. And that's really, if you want a nugget, write that one down. The best salespeople make the sales speak go the farthest, right? It's really just refining the message so that they can, with penetrating clarity, pierce the heart of their ideal client, whoever that is, right? Whether it's in sales or leadership, or whether it's moving an audience in a TED-worthy, that's what we call our talks, TED-worthy. If you get 5 minutes, you're going to be on stage, you'll have a talk that will work for you. So that's where the whole keynote cowboy came up, because I wear a cowboy hat when I'm out and about.
I've actually seen that cowboy hat.
Yeah, I have it. Maybe later on we'll put it on for the Q&A.
There you go. So, I know you've spoke on many stages and stuff like that. And then we were talking earlier today, just our circle of influence, like the Greg Reeds and the Bob Proctors and the Les Browns, Tony Robbins, John Assaraf. And these are some big name people that have gone out there and really impacted the world. Our leaders out there and things like that. And what was the one book that we brought up in our subject?
I have it.
Do you have it?
It's often referred to as the Bible of the personal development industry. This is the official one, right? This is the hard copy. This might belong to you. Autographed in gold foil.
Yes.
Yeah, Think and Grow Rich, right? That's.
I know. How many of you guys are? I want to see if I can. I'm going to full screen here. I want to see by a show of hands how many of you guys have read or heard about Think and Grow Rich. Raise your hand.
How do I raise my hand?
There you go. Just
how do I raise my hand?
Just we're looking in the video.
Okay. I thought I had to do it on the screen.
No, that's GoToMeeting. We do it visually, like because this is your live audience. Like, all right. So if you've read it, you've heard about it, raise your hand. Let them know that. I know Keith over there is doing because he lives by that book.
Yeah.
And John Maxwell and stuff like that. I'm
like 5 levels of leadership. That's an awesome book.
See, Keith, there you go. You got to talk to my boy Jay here, because big follower of John Maxwell, and I'm like you. I have the book. I think you got it, and stuff like that.
I might have your copy.
But you know what? I have a PDF copy of it because I like to print it out and scribble on it. I'm like, there's a couple of people on here. I'm seeing if I can see her because I wanted to look up, because I actually have the audio book. Joni.
Maybe you should put that in the success vault.
Oh, that'd
be a great gift.
You do know where I got this one from, right? This one was from the Tub of Love.
Okay.
So look at this. This is the complete set of Think and Grow Rich. So we might drop that in the success vault as well. So, but there's the principles of Think and Grow Rich, and
sure.
Nuggets of information that anybody that reads that or listens to it will grasp and understand. That leaders, literally, I was with Brian Tracy, and he showed me his original copy. He has Think and Grow Rich. He has a book, an old book of it, and it looks like a Bible to me. And he literally reads that a chapter or a section every single day. He says there's not a day that goes by that he does not read Think and Grow Rich. And, and he says it's the content in there. There's so much good things, but we were just talking about, this different pillars and structures on that. And I know you talk about Think and Grow Rich, but there's parts that are you feel are missing, or
not so much missing, but it's like the story behind the story. When we go to an event, we we go to view a speaker or a teacher or a leader, and I've found that the most interesting elements of those conversations are usually the story behind the story, right? How did they get there? What were the things that aren't in print, right? And Bob Proctor used to teach a lesson, and I'll share some of it with you tonight. Yes, we're all familiar with the 13 principles, right? The first one is desire and faith and auto-suggestion and specialized knowledge and imagination, organized planning, decision, persistence, the mastermind group, sex transmutation, the subconscious mind, the brain, the sixth sense, right? All 13 principles, we're familiar with them. But many people get turned off by, one, the title, Think and Grow Rich, because especially if you're, let's say that not motivated by money, right? Riches can mean anything to you, but oftentimes it's equated solely with money. And hey, if that's not my number one priority, well, that book's not for me. And I don't think that's the case. And here's part of the interesting elements of Think and Grow Rich, right? So he studies the 500 wealthiest people, right? Basically, his lifelong study condenses all of their philosophies into this book, and that's Think and Grow Rich. What doesn't get a lot of airplay is that he interviewed 25,000 people that would be classified as failures, right? Now, you remember my mentor, Jim Rohn, right? He said, wouldn't it be great if failures gave seminars, right? You just sit down with them for a day, you grab your notebook and all the things that you did to mess up your life, it would be awesome, right? But nobody does that. Yeah, we might do that, right? The failure seminar. But so anyway, in this study of these 25,000 failures and these 500 successful men and women, they came up with these philosophies. And the lesson that I was talking about with regards to our friend and mentor, Bob Proctor, is that most of the information that we take in or we receive, we're taking in through our 5 physical senses, right? So if I asked you, Kent, what are your 5 physical senses? Go ahead and rattle them off. What are they?
Sight, sound. What are the 5 physicals? Somebody else help me.
Come on, man. There's only 5. Okay.
I know.
See,
hear,
touch, smell,
touch,
taste. Touch. Hey, we got somebody live. Who's that? How'd you bust in live? He's got them all.
That's Keith.
Hi, Keith. So if I were to ask you, what are your 6 mental muscles or intellectual faculties, could you tell me what those are?
No.
Yeah.
I think, and look, everybody across here is shaking their head.
Are they shaking their head? Okay, wait. How do I look at them? Okay.
Swipe.
Okay, I'm swipe right.
All right, show me.
I'm not on Tinder, am I?
No, you're not on Tinder. Okay. It's Zoom.
Okay.
It's because you're doing it on your phone. So
okay. So I did my swiping. Okay, so everybody said no. Okay, so here's what we've figured out, that all of these successful men had highly developed these 6 intellectual faculties, right? They didn't really know it, or they didn't know what to call it. They didn't refer to it as mental muscles, but they either had a highly developed intellectual faculties, these 6, or they had somebody in their sphere that they, like they say, hire your, what do they say? What's the thing? Hire your weakness. Work your strengths and hire weakness, right?
That's right.
So they hired in, or they associated with people that had these strengths in these 6 intellectual faculties, right? So I'll share with you all 6 of them, and I'll give you a little bit of context that you can use in your daily approach. And from a leadership perspective, here's what I want you to think about. The real simple thing. You can spend the rest of your life from this day forward relying on input from your physical senses, right? Which most of it comes through what? Your eyes and ears, right? The majority of it. And are we bombarded today with images and messages? I mean, I don't know there's some statistical count for how many messages and images and marketing pieces that come to you on a daily basis, right?
I think it's something like 100,000.
It's a ridiculous number, yeah. Right? It's a ridiculous number. Whatever the number is, we know it's a ridiculous number and it's not manageable. So when I discuss these 6 intellectual faculties with you, or these mental muscles, the key to understand is, 1, that they are able to be developed, and 2, that you can rely upon them when receiving or synthesizing information, instead of just on your eyes and ears. Okay, how's that sound?
I like that. I'm like taking
You
notes.
got your pen and paper? I got my pen and paper too. I want to see this. Okay, hang on. Does everybody else have a pen and paper here? Let's see. I'm looking for notes here. I'm scanning through. Okay, swipe left again.
Well, you muted yourself. Let's see. Unmute.
I got it. I figured it out.
All right.
I unmuted myself. Okay. All right. So the first intellectual faculty or mental muscle is perception. All right. Perception. Perception for those of you spelling challenged. Perception. And really simple, this just means how you see things, right? So Kent and I walk outside today. He sees it as partly cloudy. I see it as partly sunny, right? We're looking at the exact same thing, but we have a different perception of what that might be. Commonly, someone will say, the glass is half full or the glass is half empty. That's an easy image to pick up where perception can have an impact, right? And the key is you have a choice. You have a choice how you are going to perceive the world, how you're going to look through a lens. The two people can look at the exact same circumstance and have an entirely different experience of what happened, right? Even on this call today, right? You can be distracted and have a perception that this was a total waste of your time, or you might hang out and you might pick up that one nugget that makes the entire difference in your business and your leadership skills, right? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So that's perception, number one, right? The next one is will, W-I-L-L, okay? Now, most people, when they think of will, they think of willpower, right? They think of like, let's say they're trying to lose some weight and they decide that they're not going to eat chocolate cake, right? And then somebody brings the chocolate cake by and you're like, I'm not going to eat the cake. I'm not going to eat the cake. That's like your willpower, right? That's not what we're talking about. Although willpower is important, especially when it comes to fending off negativity and thoughts that don't serve you. But I'm talking about will, meaning your ability to focus on one thing and one thing only to the exclusion of everything else. So think about that as the definition of will, the ability to focus on one thing only to the exclusion of everything else, okay? Now, again, think about how you might be able to use focus in your daily life. We just talked about being bombarded with distractions all day long. For me, I have a ritual on a daily basis where I make 90 minutes of outbound calls. And I literally have to turn off the computer, turn off the email, turn off the do not disturb, no social media. It's literally a commitment for 90 minutes outbound, only doing the thing that I need to do in that 90 minutes, right? That requires a certain amount of focus or the application of will, okay? Make sense? You with me? Everybody nod yes and can't tell me that they're all on board.
They're all shaking their heads, giving
that way I don't have
up.
to swipe. I don't have to swipe to go find them. Okay, good.
There you go.
The next one is reason, R-E-A-S-O-N, reason. And when we talk about reason, this is actually choosing your thoughts, right? This is what separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom, our ability to reason out a thing. When we talk about our mind, our conscious mind, our subconscious mind, in our conscious mind, this is where we're making that choice. When I wake up in the morning, right, I can wake up one of two ways. I can wake up joyful, enthusiastic, and ready to go, or I can wake up timid, tired, and unenthusiastic, right? Again, it's a choice. When thoughts come into my mind on a daily basis, especially, if you make the mistake of listening to some media through any form, right? Sometimes it's unavoidable. It's just in your environment, right? And it happens. You have the ability to consciously to either accept or reject or neglect any thought that comes into your mind, right? So when I talk about accepting a thought, let's say that if I come up to you and Kent and I say, Kent, you are awesome, warrior, one of the strongest men that I know on the planet. Okay, now that's a positive thought. You can choose to accept that thought and live your life that way, right? If I come in and say, Ken, I have no reason why you're on the planet, dude. All you do is waste my time and energy. You're breathing my airspace. Hi, sweet girl. It's like when you're, that's a thought that doesn't serve you, right? And you can reason through not accepting that thought. You can reject that thought or just neglect it in general, right? So I just want you to think that through. Reason, is one of our intellectual faculties, right? So we talked about perception, we talked about will, we talked about reason. That's your ability to choose your thoughts. The next one is your imagination, all right? Imagination. I'm not going to try and spell it for you. You can do it. Imagination, imagination. Now, for the most part, Kent, other than your amazing daughter, what happens to our imagination as we get older?
Well, as we get older, we just don't get as creative as we were younger. I mean, today I was with my daughter, and she literally was creating imaginative figures and people, and she's creating a spaceship out of a box. And we just, we get beat up by society because people tell us no, or you can't do this, or you're no good. And
stop daydreaming.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
that's it. You stop daydreaming, and so you
Yeah.
do, and then you're just like, you just fit inside of a box.
Yeah. And here's one of the interesting things about imagination. The misconception is that it gets weaker as you get older, but it's more of one of those things where if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So it actually gets stronger if you use it. So remember, we're talking about these intellectual faculties that all of us are gifted with. If we use them correctly, and that's the key, we'll talk about imagination correctly. There's basically two types of imagination, right? There's synthetic imagination, where we're taking one thing and we're thinking of a better way to use it, right? And then there's creative imagination, where we create something that never existed before, or it's never existed in our experience before, right? So spending time just thinking, right? Thinking about creative ideas, thinking about how can I do this more effectively? One of the sales trainers, I'm not sure if it was Brian Tracy or maybe Jim Rohn, but one of the lessons that they taught had to do with an assessment of yourself after you did a thing. So let's say, for example, you went out and you give a sales presentation. What do most people do at the end of that sales presentation? They think about all the stuff that they did wrong and how bad it went, just dumping on themselves and just being super hard on themselves, right? So the lesson here is, the first thing you do is you make a list of all the things you did right. Okay. So I showed up on time. I brushed my teeth. I took a shower. I wore nice clothes. I was engaging. I was funny. I was, all these different things. Until you have exhausted that list in its entirety, then the second step is, what would I do differently? Okay. How would I improve on that? And this is where you can use your imagination, right? Your imagination of, what if I showed up 10 minutes early and I did a Google search on the executive that runs that business before I walk through the door? Maybe I'd have a little bit of feedback or something else, right? Some other information to be able to use. Or maybe I would have shown up differently, based upon the environment. I'm just saying that your imagination can play a key role in not just your existing experience, but thinking about the future, right? When we talk about goals, we're really talking about our imagination. For me, I had the very good fortune to spend 6 days in Hawaii about 2 weeks ago. And I've done it every year for several years, and literally just by myself and just planning the next 3 years. And there's something that's interesting that happens, right? When you get in a peaceful place next to the water with no interruptions and just your notepad and just planning out things and just imagining, if things were how I wanted them, what would they look like, right? And I want to encourage the folks that are on this call, how are you using your imagination, right? Many people use it the wrong way, right? They imagine the worst, right? You ever had an experience where, you're expecting somebody to show up for a meeting, let's say that it's a high profile client, and they're 10 minutes late, right? And your imagination starts going, maybe they bailed on me, right? And then it's 20 minutes late, and then it's 30 minutes late, and then maybe they're in an accident, maybe they're dead, maybe, who knows what else, right? That's the incorrect way to use our imagination. We want to use our imagination to think about and hold the image of the things that we want and our goals in the brightest possible light, in the clearest possible way in the future, okay? So that's imagination. So how many more we got? 2 more. Memory, number 5. Now, Kent, let me ask you, when you talk to most people about their memory, what do they say?
They can't remember.
I call that CRS. Can't
Okay.
remember shit. Yes. They usually say they can't remember S, right?
Right.
Or I'm terrible at names, or I'm whatever, blah, 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 right? Well, just think about your own self-talk. If you sat around telling yourself a thing over and over and over and over again, whether it's true or not true, what do you think will be the outcome?
What you tell yourself over and over and over.
Exactly, right? We've already described and literally the first chapter of this book about thoughts being things, right? Or the audio book, yes, for those of you less likely to read a book. Thoughts are things, right? What we think about is what we become. And so if you're consistently telling yourself, I can't remember, I don't do well with names, I'm horrible with faces, like, you got to stop that. Stop doing that. If you're doing that, friends, stop that, okay? Just say, I'm working to remember it, right? I'm thinking about the last time I remembered that thing. I choose to think differently now. Now, most people use their memory in this negative way. But let me tell you the correct way to develop and use your memory. Can you think of a time, even recently or even in the past, just anywhere, where things were clicking for you on all cylinders? Like it was just like go time and everything was just working correctly? Think about that time. When was it? Give me an example.
It was April of last year.
Okay, perfect. And give me a little context. What was going on in April of last year?
Had a couple of business propositions. The clients all showed up. I had the information. Yeah. They were loving it. And, signed them all up, got the business deals and stuff. So it just clicked. Yeah. It was like one of those days where all cylinders were hitting, and it was like, man, if every day was like this, it was like,
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it didn't take you too long to remember that event from April of last year. It didn't take you but a minute to remember that feeling that was happening back then. And it didn't take you long to change your physiology and thinking about how things were in the flow and going on, right? Mm-hmm. So the idea is that's how we effectively use our memory. We use our memory to recall when things were working, and that we have the skill set, the mindset, and the ability and the attitude to relive that on a daily basis. Every day you might lose your mind because you'd be so awesome and effective, but more days than not, you can use that memory and use that intellectual faculty, or that sixth, this is number 5, mental muscle, to cultivate your memory and have it serve you instead of having it work against you. Because it's just as easy to remember a time where things were not working, right? I mean, you and I have been around the block a little bit, right? I've never served in the armed forces. Thank you for your service. But I know that memories of things that you'd rather not remember, it doesn't take long to change. Yeah. Well, it doesn't take long to change your state and your mind and go down that path too, right? Mm-hmm. So I just want you to recall that the effective way to utilize your memory and to develop it, not just memory techniques, but using your memory to remember a time when things were working, and then bring that state of mind into your present for things that you want to work now. Okay. How are we doing? Number 5. How are we doing on time?
Oh, we're doing
Everybody still, anybody asleep at the wheel out there? I can't see him right now. So
let's see. I think Kara fell asleep and Georgina fell asleep, but that's about it. Everybody else is smiling.
Just go ahead and just hashtag delete, and then you're good right there.
Here, we'll just tap on their foreheads a little bit. All right, they're awake now.
Okay, good. Okay, so that's 5, right? So we had perception, will, reason, imagination, memory. The last one is intuition, okay? Now, in Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill refers to intuition as the 6th sense, right? Now, you and I think of the 6th sense. What's the first thing we think about? I see dead people.
Movies.
Right? Exactly. I see dead people. I don't know if that gets picked up by my phone or not. I see dead people. Yeah. Okay. But really, the 6th sense is really about intuition. Now, you've had an experience where you've walked into a room and you've felt the energy in the room, either positive or negative, mm-hmm. right? Or a circumstance where maybe you were in an environment and all of a sudden the hair on the back of your neck stands up a little bit, or you get some kind of funky goosebumps, like what's going on in here? That's your intuition giving you a nudge, right? And we all have access to our intuition. We all have a gut feeling, sometimes we just ignore it and we just go and do the thing that we think is the right thing to do, and we ignore that intuition. Or some of us, especially those that are, healers and intuitive people, like they've got a highly developed intuitive factor. You know, it can be developed. And really the way that it's developed is through silence, meditation, listening, eliminating distractions, right? I mean, on a daily basis, we already talked about the number of marketing messages and images that come into your life. Eliminating distraction is one of the key ways. You know, Napoleon Hill talked about when you develop in Think and Grow Rich, he talks about developing a one-page statement of your goal, right? Your definite major, he called it your definite chief aim, right? Where you literally, before your head hits the pillow at night, you recite this this version of your definite chief aim. And the thing is, when you go to sleep, and you go to sleep with that on your mind, your intuition is really what tunes into, he called it the ether, right? Where ideas come from, where you don't really know. You know, we all talk about this mastermind philosophy. So here's the simple terms, right? In Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill defines the mastermind as when two people come together, right? There's an energy that's created that's like a third mind, right? So you and I come together, there's this third force over here, and ideas and plans and insights and direction and things will show up that wouldn't be present if the two of us hadn't come together, okay? Now, biblically, being a Christian man, right? So in the Bible, it's if any two believers come together, Jesus says, I'm there too, right? Same philosophy. You've got this energy or this force or this source of new information that wouldn't existed unless those two people came together. And that's why masterminding is such an important piece of moving forward, important piece of leadership, important piece of setting goals and challenging each other. You know, one of the things we talk about, you know, what are you really excited about right now? Like, what are you working on that's really got you fired up, you know? And I'm working on this project called the Teen Mentoring Initiative, right? Teen Mentoring, TMI, Teen Mentoring Initiatives. And one of the things that blew me away, so I was at an event about a month ago, and you know Sparky, right? Halise Bridges, who I Am Makes a Difference. You know Sparky?
Yeah, I actually have one of her blue badges still.
Yeah, one of her blue ribbons. Yeah, so
to give away.
So she's got this program where she's working with these schools to educate these teens, and she had them all get on the stage. She prepped them about 10 minutes beforehand. They gave them each a little thing. Okay, who are you? What are you working on? And you know, what help do you need, or whatever. I don't remember the three things, but literally she had 20 kids on the stage. Each one of them had the microphone, and they said, hi, you know, my name's so-and-so, and I just started my first nonprofit, and I'm looking for somebody to help me with funding. And then the next guy's like, okay, so I just tried out for the first play and I got selected for the part and I felt really great. And they just go down this line, 25 kids. And I'm thinking, hey man, there is a hope for the future, right? These teens are it, you know? And being the father of a 15-year-old daughter, you know, that matters to me, right? And so we just want to pour into them, and we want to teach these ideas. You know, Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, right? We're going to refer to this puppy. It's over, I think, like 100 years old, right? So even though it's as relevant as ever today, it's not in a language that's relevant with today, right? It's the same thing with all personal development. It's not like there's anything new under the sun. It's not new information, but we need to figure out a way to articulate it and describe it and define it and teach it in a way that's relevant, not just to youth, but to aspiring leaders, to entrepreneurs. Just you'd be surprised. It'd be sick. We talked about this earlier about people that don't know who Les Brown is. How many people have never heard of this book? And we think about it as second in line to the Bible, right? I mean, it's like crazy to think that, you know? So we've got our 6 intellectual faculties. You got them all? What are they? Read them off.
Okay, you got the...
I'm testing you in front of your peers. I'm testing you.
All right.
Perception.
Perception is the first one. Imagination.
It can be in any order.
Imagination.
That's fine.
All right. Memory.
You got 2. Yeah, you got 3 now.
Hold on. I wrote them down. Intuition.
Okay, good. You're halfway there.
All right. What am I missing?
Will.
Oh, will.
Oh, hey, you got some help from the audience. Hang
will
on.
And reason.
Yes, you got them all. So just think about this. Like I mentioned in the front end of this, imagine ordering your day using these as your filter instead of your ears and eyes as the primary filter of information, right? So filtering everything through perception, reason, will, imagination, intuition, memory, and using them all correctly and developing them in a way that serves you, right? Because we all spend way too much time focusing on things that are not serving us, right?
That's right.
At least, I'm guilty. John Maxwell, somebody mentioned John Maxwell. One of the quotes that I love about him, he says, "I strive to live up to the level of my own teaching." And that's really it, right? When we teach these things, we become more effective at them. And that's the same thing. You aspiring to be leaders, the more you do, right? The actual doing part of it, and the sharing of ideas and teaching, the more effective leader that you're going to be, right? And having someone in your ear like Kent, I've got a young guy right now. To give you a little context, I won't tell you his name, but less than a month ago, he was in Las Vegas living a life that he should not have been living. And he came to San Diego at the request of one of his family members. And I looked into this kid's eyes and I'm like, this kid just needs somebody in his ear to talk to him and tell him what's possible, right? And I think we all have that responsibility, especially as leaders and coaches and teachers and trainers, right? My mentor, Les Brown, says sometimes you got to believe in someone else's belief in you until your belief kicks in, right? And that's really it. I've seen way too many people give up on their goals and dreams because there wasn't somebody there to stretch them or to encourage them when things were tough. That's one of the things Kent and I talk about, iron sharpens iron, right? It's like having a brother in your life that is willing to challenge you when you need to be challenged and willing to, hug it out when you need to hug it out. It's, I can't overstate the importance of those friendships and associations. And if you don't have someone like that in your life, either strive to be that guy or gal or girl. I don't know. When my daughter says, when I say gal, I sound like an old man. So I'll say girl, strive to be that girl, or find somebody in these communities and just connect with them. And, that's one of the things that can't, I created a little private Facebook group. I haven't told anybody about it yet, but I'll tell you tonight. So the book, can I tell them now?
Yeah, that's good.
Here's something. Check this out, right? So have you seen this book before?
The happiness? No.
Okay, so this one's called The Happiness Advantage. Has anybody read this? Here, check some hands and see if anybody's read this thing. Okay.
Right. Anybody read this? Raise your hand. No hands.
Okay, let me give you the simplified version. So these guys are Harvard psychologists and all they do is study happiness. Okay. Do you think that would be an interesting book to read? Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in one of the studies that they did, they found out that only 25% of your future success could be determined by your education. Now, these are Harvard psychologists, right? Who probably spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to get that education. And they're like, only 25% of your future success can be determined by your education, right? The other 75% are determined by 3 other factors, okay? Not your education, 3 other factors.
Are you going to share?
No, you got to read the book.
Oh, okay, cool.
No, I'll share.
No, that's okay. I'm going to come to your house. I'm going to borrow the book. I'm going to read it.
I'll share them. Okay. So the first one is your level of optimism. Okay. And by optimism, they define that as your belief that your behavior matters, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're apathetic and you don't believe your behavior matters, it's probably not going to be effective for you. But optimism, sometimes we think about optimism, your best is yet to come. That's a factor. They're just talking about the belief that your behavior matters. That's how they define that. So when you believe that your behavior matters, you function differently, right? The second one is your social support network, right? Now, guys like you and I, what do we tend to do when things are not working out for us or we need a little caveman time? Where do we go?
Not taking care of
your. Ooh, what was that?
Somebody else was.
I know somebody was piping in. I was like, where do you usually go?
Well, you usually go in the cave, right?
That's
You
right.
usually just go zero out, get away from people, whatever. And
Yep.
and they found that no, that's not the thing to do, right? It's to get around people like this, get into community, get into places where people that support you and believe in you and trust and will give you hope in the future, right?
Yeah. Everybody says I just go on a cruise.
You just go on a cruise to the Bahamas? Is that where did you go?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, dirtbag.
Hey, my way to unplug.
I was bragging.
No
I was
social
bragging about
media, no
Hawaii.
nothing.
I was bragging about Hawaii, and you're in the Bahamas. Oh man. Yeah. So that's 2 of the 3. You can read the book and get the rest of them. So anyway, the reason why I brought that up. So I was talking about the book. As I mentioned, it'll be available on CreateSpace. If you want to throw the signed copy into the success. What do you call that thing? A vault?
Success vault. Yeah, it's basically a vault that speakers are donating their either their coaching packages, their programs, whatever it is. It's a vault where whoever wins it is going to have huge successes in their life, personal, business, things like that. So
well, let me tell you. So the catalyst for writing this book, which is called The Death of Mediocrity, and the subtitle is "You Were Designed for More Than Average."
Yeah.
Is really that there's a lot of times in our life when we accept average as okay, right? And you're just not designed for that. You're designed for more. And so I like things that are small and concise, right? Can you see how skinny that book is right there?
Yep.
You can read this puppy in an hour, easy. And there's exercises embedded within it. We talk a lot about philosophy. There's a lot of philosophy when it comes to personal development, right? There's a lot of instruction, go do this, go do that, whatever. But there's not a lot of tactical actual okay, so you told me what it is, but you're not telling me how to do it, right? So there's a lot of how-to in here. There's exercises that cause you to get really introspective, to ask yourself some hard questions, right?
Yeah.
Because success, even though the disciplines can be easy in theory, the living it out is the hard part, right? And so this just gives you some ideas and motivation on how to make the changes that you want to make and to no longer accept mediocrity as an option for you. So I'll throw a signed copy of that in. If you guys want, I'll throw another an hour's worth of one-to-one. If you're fleshing out a talk and you need some help, or if you just want some one-to-one coaching insight on whatever entrepreneurial endeavor you're involved in, I'm happy to contribute that to you and your awesome people.
Wow. So an hour of coaching and a signed book?
Yes.
That's
There's
awesome.
no limit.
Hey, when does the book come out? Because I know some people here.
It should be out. Okay. So it should be out on CreateSpace in the next 72 hours, right?
Okay. So you're going to give me the link.
Yeah. I'll send it to you. Actually, so here's what they want to do. So what they should do is search the Death of Mediocrity Mastermind group on Facebook, if they're on Facebook, and just ask to join the group. And then once they're in the group, I'll make sure that they get a link to the CreateSpace.
Yeah, and please.
It'll be on Amazon and everything else.
Send me the link.
Yes, sir.
I'll put it in the group. We've got over 400 people in the group. I want to make sure that they know about it so they can get it because it's a good book. I mean, you got praises on the book from Greg Reed and Jason Freeman and DC Cordova, Bob Donnell. We just had that guy.
Oh yeah, I heard you guys had Bob Donnell on your call.
Yeah, I mean, and you were talking about Steve Stealth Miller. I got to get that guy on here. And as you're talking, I posted out in the group. Guess who pops on and says, he was so Doug Grady popped in the message.
My buddy Doug Grady.
That's right. Who wrote the book, The Ripple Effect. So I definitely got to get him on this on this leadership call. So, you got some amazing people that are talking testimonials and stuff. I got the book right here and I'm looking at it and I see your different chapters. One of them that just sticks out, it's like, wow, maybe it's just the title that intrigues me. You got Elevate Standards, the daily thermostat, Building a Better Future, Worthy Goals, Inspired Action, Decision Time. The one that sticks out, and I want you to kind of just talk a little bit about it if you don't mind, and if these guys don't mind.
Okay.
If you guys don't mind, give me some thumbs up, because I know.
Yeah, how are we doing on time? Are you guys ready to wrap this thing up?
No, they're giving me all thumbs up. So, chapter 2, kisses from an enemy. What the heck?
Kisses from an enemy.
What is that all about?
Kisses from an enemy. All right, so I'll read you the actual quote, which will help you, right?
No,
So
I think this is something that you guys. All right, here's a little note. Take notes.
Some people might know it. Okay, so this is Proverbs 27:6. Okay, Proverbs. It says, "Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful." Okay, so faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. So we find a lot, especially in this day and age, right, where people will tell you things that may not be true in an effort to either manipulate you or to have you do a thing or become a thing, or for a variety of different reasons. Who knows what the motivations are, but oftentimes they are deceitful, but they're disguised as a kiss, right? Telling you how awesome a thing is when they really know that it's not. Where wounds from a friend, it's just like you and I talked about, iron sharpening iron, right? I can share some tough love with you, and I can tell you some potentially, I'm not going to say harmful, because I'm not saying something to harm you, but I can share what I call loving toes with you, where I can give you a kick in a loving way because I care about you that much, that this wound that I'm giving you can be trusted, right? You're going to benefit from this discipline. You're going to benefit from this accountability. You're going to benefit from this leverage that we're going to apply to you, you know, and I'm talking about a reasonable amount of pressure to get you to move. That's what I mean by leverage, right? A reasonable amount of pressure to get you to move towards the thing that you said you wanted to do. That's, you know, some of the most effective coaches are really great at using leverage, right? Some of the biggest names in the world use leverage to a degree. You know, most people will do anything to avoid pain. So if there's any leverage or pain involved in it, they won't do it, right? But if somebody cares enough about you to tell you the truth in a penetrating way that pierces your heart, that you know it hurts when it happens, right? Sometimes the truth hurts. It's like, look, I don't want to hurt you, but I have a responsibility to tell you the truth, and so I'm going to do it, and here it is, right? That's what I mean by wounds from a friend, right? So just be careful of who you're listening to, and are they wounds from a friend, or are they kisses from an enemy? That's the baseline.
Dang. Yeah, he just, I hope, drop that microphone right there.
When we do webinars, that's what we say. We show up, we drop in, we drop knowledge, and we drop the mic.
That was awesome. Now, if you liked, all right, if I wouldn't say love, but I mean, if you got some nuggets of information tonight from Mr. Shoop, give me like, like do the, all right, yeah, like everybody's
Forget
doing
that.
the high five.
I'm just gonna say it was awesome. I'm not gonna do not just look. Awesome, awesome. I loved it.
I appreciate that.
Wait,
Hey,
what was number 3? I have level of optimism, social support network.
Oh,
He
we
didn't
didn't
get
share. We didn't share number 3. I said
You
get
got to
the
go
book.
get the book, yeah.
Oh.
I might come up with it though. Let me
What?
use my memory.
It's
Let
okay.
me
What's
use
the
my
name
memory.
of the book?
The Happiness Advantage. Give me just a second. It might come to me before we end the call. It may come to me.
Thank you.
No worries.
I'm going to keep scanning the memory bank.
So Jay, I you literally gave us some great nuggets of information, from the 6 mental muscles to the happiness books there, and then
Did you get all 13 principles from Think and Grow Rich? I read them. I read them kind of fast.
I can watch the replay and type them out.
Yep.
But hey, guess what? I got the audio book, so I'm good.
Okay. Do you want to take them? Do you want to take some time for Q&A or what?
Yeah, we can do some Q&A if some people got any questions.
Keep them easy though. It's late.
All right, so if you got a question for Jay, put it in the chat room right now. Other than that, you know, I appreciate you taking the time tonight to drop these nuggets of information. I know everybody here from the East Coast to the West Coast really enjoyed this information. You know, you are definitely keeping my caliber of speakers up there. And so everybody's seeing the value of this and what it takes to be a leader. You know, and you know, a leader isn't something that happens overnight. It's not something that, you know, I mean, it's a decision. You know, you step into it. You say, I am going to be a leader. It's not just something that you're pushed into or you're pulled into. You actually have to make that decision. You know, so but I thank you. I mean, we've gotten to spend a lot of great times. You know, I want to get Patrick Carney on here, especially talking about masterminds. You hit a big note on that. And you know, we've mastermind. We were in a mastermind, what, 2-3 years together?
Yeah,
I
a long
mean,
time.
I mean, how much? And you brought that up, is we had so many great things come out of a mastermind. I mean, best-selling books, training courses created. I mean, we helped.
You know, it's interesting, right? So Napoleon Hill described how ideas are like boxcars on a train where one follows another, right? And so when you're in a mastermind environment, one idea comes out and then somebody drops another idea in behind that, and somebody drops another idea in behind that, and another one behind that. And it might not be until like the 10th or 11th boxcar on that train until that one idea comes, but it never would have got there if you wouldn't have gone through these other 9 before it, right? And that's where the power of mastermind really happens. You know, there's, like I said, there's just an energy that happens, and one idea spins off of another. It's not even, you know, some people refer to it as brainstorming, which is like it's a tactic, but it's not really really defining what happens when this energy that's created that wasn't there before, all of a sudden that one idea that could change everything for you shows up. And you got to put yourself in those environments. Environments are so important. Everything is an environment. Your office is an environment. Your cell phone is an environment. Your workplace is an environment. Your sales meeting is an environment. You want to set up your environments in a way that they support you and set you up for success, right? And masterminding is a great way to do it.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking through all the questions, and there are none except your Facebook group, but somebody already posted it, so they found that. And then, of course, I'm just getting an amazing job. Like, Jay is cute, and you did great information and great training. Way to go! Like, everybody's like just blown away with this information.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I think we're pretty much wrapped up for tonight.
Seacrest out.
Seacrest. Yeah, so here you guys go. I mean, Jay Shoop in the house, dropping nuggets of information for you guys. I hope you really enjoyed this. I hope you're like me, you got your notes all written out. If not, Jay, we recorded this so you can dissect.
Send me the link.
Talk. I will send you the link. You can share it with other people. Hey, look, I talked in front of all these people. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you guys for being on here. Wednesday training call. We've got one more Sunday call left for this month because actually, hold on, let me look at my calendar real quick. One more Sunday call because we are literally going to be doing this once a week. We're going to be doing it only once a week instead of 2 times a week. So this Sunday's call is going to be the last Sunday call. And then we'll just go into Wednesday.
Hey,
so, yes.
Who was the girl that asked about the third thing?
Kelly.
She's still on?
Yeah.
Kira.
Yes, I am.
Okay,
There's Kelly.
Okay, What's Kelly. So we said 25% of your future success could be determined by your education, and the other 3 factors determine the other 75%, right? So I mentioned one of them was optimism, your level of optimism. I mentioned the other one was your social support network, right? The people that you have around you to support you. The third was
Yes.
your ability to view stress as a challenge instead of a threat. Okay. So
Awesome.
they put us into stressful situations. You want to put yourself into stressful situations that force you to grow and stretch you, not as a threat, but as an opportunity or as a challenge. That was the third one.
Thank you.
You still should buy the book though. And I don't have an affiliate link on it. It's just a great book.
You're going to have to get the affiliate link. All right. So, all right, everybody, we are wrapping up. And like I like to leave you guys, keep smiling, because you never know whose world you're going to change. Go out there and create that ripple effect. Use this information that Jay just dropped on you guys to apply to your personal life, to your business, and go out there and be that leader. We look forward to seeing you on the next call. Thank you, Jay.
Anytime, brother.
Have an awesome evening, guys.
All right, good night.
Night.